So I'm going to start off my argument with a point that might seem a bit strange, but hopefully will become clear. And that's that I completely agree with Stephen, not on the point that markets will save us, because I don't think that, but on the point that the economic crisis was based on a misunderstanding on the part of professional economists. I think the biggest problems that we face in the world today, poverty, hunger, climate change, education, sanitation, are economics problems. While some of them might be improving, minimally, others are getting a lot worse. And I think it's economists' job to solve these problems, and that's what they're not doing. I don't think it's because economists don't want to solve these problems. I think it's because they can't. They've not been given the education that they need to be able to do that. So what's wrong with economics education? I've told you why you should care about whether economists are educated or not. But what's actually wrong with the education they get? What you taught what you expect when you go to university is that you'll learn how to critically engage with the economy. You'll learn a bit about economic history. You'll learn how to solve economic problems, and maybe discuss different ideas with your professors and your fellow students. Whereas when you get to university, what you actually get is you're taught one way of doing economics. You're taught that that's right. You're not allowed to debate it. Economics is a science. There's no politics, no ethics, nothing. That's irrelevant. That's politics, nothing to do with us. We're economists. As Stephen has said before, have these people ever read history? No, not at university at least, and probably not in the jobs either. Economic history, most economics departments don't teach economic history. There's one professor capable of doing so at Manchester. When he's not there, no economic history. This complete lack of critical engagement in undergraduate degrees means that the people who are going on to work in economic policy, who are supposed to be solving the problems like poverty, sanitation, health, etc., have no skills to actually critically engage with the economy, and they think it's not important. So what's this got to do with the market? I'm going to talk about three reasons why I don't think the market system within education can solve the problem of economists not being educated properly to deal with things like this. So firstly, it's in order to market education, you need to turn it into a commodity. I personally feel, and I think a lot of people do feel, that education is not like a car. It's not something that you buy, you use, you get a good out of it. Especially in terms of economists who are making decisions who affect all our lives, people's lives across the world. Their education is a public good, and their education benefits not only themselves, they get a pretty good salary usually, but it benefits everybody, or harms everybody who comes into contact with their policies, which is pretty much everybody. Even universities themselves don't see education as more than just teaching you how to do this, that, and the other. Manchester University says it wants to produce well-rounded, conscientious individuals, but you won't get that from a Manchester University economics course. A commodity, to be able to buy and sell something, it needs to be a thing that you can give someone. So I might be able to know how to do profit maximizing equations. You can give me a tenner and I'll teach you how to do it. That's it, that's commodity, that's transferred. Whereas becoming a well-rounded, conscientious individual, I can't just give you that. That's a process, that's something that you have to engage with, that you have to nurture. You can't sell that very easily. So if you reduce economics education to this set of equations rather than a discussion about the implications of what you do and the ethics of what you do, and then it's much easier to commodify it. So I think that's the first reason why the marketisation of education has a detrimental effect on economists. In order to fit it into a market system, you have to reduce it to something that is incapable of dealing with all these problems. What it becomes is, rather than actual education, it becomes a training, more like a car mechanic or something like that. And training is something that you might invest in, so which leads me on point I'll talk about later, about how treating it as an investment also has a negative effect. So, and the second point about why the marketisation of education has a bad effect on economics education is that market principles will tell you that in order to maximize profits, you need to reduce your marginal costs. So if I then produce a textbook on these profit maximizing equations that I know how to do and sell it to you for a tenner, if I make one textbook that costs me £8 to produce, I sell it to you for £10. But if I produce a second textbook, that only costs me £2 to produce. So I'll keep producing these textbooks for £2 each until I then have to buy another photocopier. In terms of economics education, you see this in universities with the number of students. So you invest in one economics lecturer. How many students can you fit into that lecture theatre? At Manchester, it's about 500 and then 300 in the overflow theatre, and that before you have to build another lecture theatre. So students end up in lectures of 800 people. There's absolutely no way there's any room for discussion or any kind of critical engagement in a lecture that size. No way can a lecturer mark essays or take classes on discussions, so you end up with multiple choice exams. In my second year at university, was doing a multiple choice exam because it keeps costs down. And I think that, again, it's the market mechanism of minimising marginal costs for maximum gain for the university as a business, rather than looking at how we're going to give these students a good education. But what the response to that might be, well, if the market logic would say, well, if that's rubbish, if you've got 800 people in a lecture, go to another university. They've only got 500 people in a lecture. But that's not happening. Why not? 3 main reasons. So, firstly, a university education is no longer, as I was saying before, it's no longer just an education. It's an investment. You're investing in a commodity. You sign up, you pay £9,000 a year, and you say, right, out of this, I want a piece of paper with my name on it that has a number, a 1 or a 2-1, and that's my ticket to a better life. That's my ticket to a high salary. Why don't they go to the university that gives them an education and this ticket? Well, students, again, are trained to think like consumers rather than people who are receiving an education. What's the minimal effort that I can put in, the minimal cost I can spend to get this ticket to a higher salary? Well, actually, a multiple choice exam is a lot easier than writing an essay. So the market incentive is actually for students to go to these universities with 800 people, where they only have to do a multiple choice exam till the second year, and maybe write, a 10 marks of an exam in third year on an essay, because that's easier and they have to expend less effort. But then you might say, well, employers know that students who go to Manchester won't have the same skills as students who go to Sheffield, so why would they still employ them? Firstly, this argument relies on employers actually being aware of the quality of education at Manchester University, which they're not. They tend not to, it's not something employers tend to research. And it also relies on market differentiation. It actually relies on Sheffield providing a better education than Manchester. But if Sheffield look at Manchester and say, oh, they're getting 800 students in, well, we're only getting 300, well, why don't we do that? So it's a race to the bottom between universities who can provide the lowest cost but still charge £9,000 a year. So why hasn't no university kind of clocked onto this and provided different products? Why aren't students kind of saying, no, I don't want this? Well, first, and partly, as I said before, they're responding to market incentives to have an easier degree. But also, students don't know. When you're 17, you have to fill in your UCAS form. You've no idea what's on your university syllabus. I didn't know. I thought, oh, PPE, that means I can do as many subjects as I want, and I don't have to choose yet. I'll go for that. I don't actually review the curriculum and think, oh, actually, I want critical engagement. Partly because I also assume that a university would be a forum for debate, because that's how it's marketed. Perfect competition in a market, competition that produces good value education, relies on students having perfect information, which they just don't have. League tables, when you're searching for university, you look at your league tables, they don't have anything about the quality of education. It's about ratios, how student experience, research ranking, which has very little impact on your education as a student. It's what lecturers are doing on their own. There's also the NSS, National Student Survey, at the end of your 3 years. Again, unreliable. When you come to, if anyone's ever been on campus during NSS time, universities, they're giving out chocolate bars, there's propaganda everywhere saying, tell the NSS how great we are. We had a lecturer at Manchester who walked into a lecture and said, you better fill in your NSS and say that we're really good, because if you don't, we'll go down in league tables and your degree is worthless. So not only is the propaganda and incentives, there's actually bullying. So which leads me on to the final point, why competition has failed for economics education. And that's that students have made an enormous investment, £27,000 just for course fees, and then there's also the cost of living, there's the emotional investment of moving away from your family and your friends. They want to get their money's worth. Students are adopting strategies in order to succeed, in order to get these higher grades and maintain the value of their investment because of market incentives. If you'd bought a car, a classic car maybe, started driving it, and you spent 27 grand on a car, started driving it, realised it was a bit crap, you wouldn't go to a car show and then say, look everyone, this car's rubbish, please buy it from me. No, of course you wouldn't. In the same way students wouldn't go work for 3 years, get a degree, and then tell employers that actually the education that they received didn't require any critical engagement or real-world application. There's an incentive for students as consumers, having made this investment in this commodity, to maintain the value of an investment, as there is with any other investment. So if you treat economics education as a commodity, then students will also treat it as a commodity. So just to kind of summarise, I think training economists properly is the only thing that will save us. Good education of economists can't be commodified. If you do commodify it, cost reductions and incentive for universities, and maintaining the value of their investment is an incentive for students. And all those things together result in poorly educated economists, and like Stephen said, results in economic crises, in social crises, because of the misunderstanding on the part of professional economists.
Well, thanks very much.